Hey guys, welcome back to the beginner lesson series. In this video we are looking at the muted rake technique with the right hand here, which is going to sound something like this. So let's talk about setting up the right hand. First thing, you want to make sure that you are choking up on the pick quite a bit. You can see not letting too much of that pick stick out of my fingers. That's so we have good control with the pick. And a little side note on that, I hear a lot of my students say that they're trying to avoid touching the strings with anything else other than the pick, and that's not something that you want to do. Because we're choking up on the pick so much and we want to stay close to the strings and the guitar to be in control of everything, there's naturally going to be some contact. If you're trying to avoid touching with anything else other than the pick, it's going to make it very awkward for your right hand. You're going to get tense. You're not going to be able to find the strings that you want to find. You're probably going to lose your pick. It's just, it opens up a whole world of problems. So as long as the pick is the last thing that's striking the strings, it doesn't really matter if your index finger touches the string a little bit, because it's not going to affect the sound, right? And that's the most important thing, that the sound isn't affected and we have good control. So to execute the muted rake, we need the heel of our hand to land on the strings here, and then the pick is going to follow that and strike across the muted strings to get our rake. So a couple of notes. These fingers, we want to let them hang. We don't want to cup them into the hand or make a fist. It's going to be really difficult to do the muted rake if you're bringing these fingers in, okay? So make sure those are just kind of hanging out and brushing across the body there, nice and relaxed. Another thing is with the muted raking, we only have to aim for a few strings. We don't have to think about hitting all 6 strings. That'll make it awkward as well if I'm trying to cover all 6 strings and then mute across all 6. That's not going to let us flow. It can just be, 2-3 strings. And so for the purpose of this video, we'll talk about hitting the thinner strings here. That's going to give us plenty of that percussive sound, okay? We don't need to go all the way across. That'll just make it more difficult, and it'll probably sound awkward as well. So always aim for the things that make sense, the things that make it easiest, as long as you're getting the sound that you want. Okay, so what we want to do with our right hand is think about just normal strumming, right? We're just going down, up here, and in that path, the right hand is going to, like I said, the heel is going to drop on those strings, and the pick is going to be right behind it like that. So you can practice first just putting your heel of your hand on the strings and then rotating from the wrist here. So we're kind of fixed there, right? This would be the first step. Just get a few strings, make sure your pick and heel of your hand are touching the same strings, right? So you don't get any stray open strings raking out. Okay, that's the general motion. Then we can lift our hand up here, fall onto the strings, and execute the same thing that we were just doing, but just a little motion or distance traveled from above the strings as if we were strumming. And you can do that very mechanically initially, right? Fall, place, rotate through. And then you want to try and get that to be one motion. Just land on the strings and let that pick immediately come through once you know you have those strings muted. So trying to be as consistent and accurate as possible. Okay, now from there we can add an up strum, and I'm just catching a couple strings on that up strum, and really from there you can just start to pick up the speed. We don't even need a chord at this point. We're just trying to think through it step by step, instruct ourselves mechanically. And if you start to speed up and you're tightening up, this would be a good time to work with a metronome then. So find kind of your limit once you're understanding the general movement. And then if you're tightening up, 1, aim to relax, and 2, if you work with a metronome, you'll be able to track the speeds that you're playing at you're going at that speed, you really need to be relaxed. So I think perception can really help out here, right? If we're thinking that it's this completely alien thing from anything else we've ever done, then it's going to feel very, very uncomfortable. But if we think of it along the lines of, well, it's really just kind of like our normal strumming down and up, but now I just have to think about stopping on the strings with the heel of my hand, and that's really the only different thing. And then, the little movement from the wrist because we're fixed. It's kind of how it has to happen. If I just keep doing that, then I'm not really going to get the right sound if I just fall through. But normal strumming, down, up, that'd be a nice little transition to work on. Just strumming down, up, and then rake and strum up. And just go in and out of that. So I think it really helps to break things down step by step mechanically. That way you can actually understand the way that you need to move, and you're just adding one thing at a time rather than looking at somebody do something and then just thinking that you're going to get it by sheer willpower. Maybe that happens in some instances, but typically it's always going to be a better case scenario where you are instructing yourself step 1 to step 2 to step 3, a logical process or sequence that will help you physically understand and mentally understand how to create the sounds and use movements to do that. So we're just going to use a couple chords here to apply the muted rake. I don't want to overcomplicate what's going on in the left hand because we're really wanting to focus on what's going on here and not lose track of that. So once you get comfortable with it, like I said, do the open strings first, throw a couple chords in like we're going to do, and then you can start to mix it up once it's flowing and you're feeling very comfortable. So we're just going to use a D major, string 4 open, string 3, fret 2, finger 1, string 2, fret 3, finger 3, and string 1, fret 2, finger 2. And then we're also going to use a G5 chord here. So I'm just going to put my pinky down right there, and then I'm going to take my middle finger, index is off, middle finger up here on string 6, fret 3. So I've got string 6, fret 3, finger 2. String 5 is just naturally muted underneath the skin of my middle finger. String 4 open, and string 3 open. String 2, fret 3, finger 3, and string 1, fret 3, finger 4. That's a G5 chord actually, because there is no B in there. So D and G5. So the pattern we're going to do, I'll just show you with the D chord, we're going to do down, up, and then a muted rake, up. And we're going to double that up, so it's basically a 2-beat strum pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and rake and 3 and rake. And so we're throwing the rake on 2 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So one moment you want to focus on here is getting out of the rake so you're not holding any tension in that right hand, because this is kind of a an aggressive little move, percussive move on the guitar. And of course there's a little bit of tension in the hand, but we don't want to hold all that when we come back into our strum, because it's going to feel, one, we're going to get tired really quick, and two, it's just it's not going to give us the sound that we want. Our strumming is going to get real coarse. So I think it'll make sense as you're walking yourself through it step by step, but as you start to speed it up, just try to be conscious of that when you do the rake, right after that you have to kind of relax back into a normal state, right? And not hold that tension that you're using to create the muted rake sound. Alright, so just back into the strum pattern, and then I'm going to start alternating between D and G. That'll be what I want you guys to work on, and then like I said, you can mix it up once you're feeling really comfortable, get some other chords in there. Okay, so D chord, we'll do 2 measures for each chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 start speeding it up a little bit here. There you go, guys. That is the muted rake technique. Just remember what I said about walking yourself through it step by step, just making sure you're understanding each movement. That's going to make it a lot easier to be successful with it, and you'll learn it a lot quicker, certainly. And then it would be ideal to go find some songs that use that technique, which would not be difficult to do because it gets used quite a bit. Or better yet, if you want to come up with your own chord progression using the muted rake technique and share that, that'd be awesome. Let me know if you have any questions, guys. Have fun with that, and see you in the next video. Thanks.